Game 3 on the way. Let's look at picks, bands.
This is honestly such an impressive set between these two teams. A 58-minute game number 1, down to 35 in game number 2. Spacestation Gaming did not relinquish control in game number 2 the same way they faltered in game number 1. A lot of that comes down to the Giannis pick because it was difficult to even get into the backline against the Puch, but that combination with the dodgy Space Station adapted in game number 2. We'll see how Splyce adapts in game 3.
Well, the bans so far relatively similar until Splyce say no more dodgy.
Oh.
They don't want andinster playing that one, so that means Serqet is available.
That's right.
Splyce with the first selection. Did they go there?
I mean, it's going to be snap picked.
Ooh, Freya.
It's definitely going to be snap picked. I don't necessarily know, though, because maybe Space Station Gaming are going to feel inclined not to pick it now, knowing that Cyno might not play because he's going to lean on the Naja before the ban. We haven't really seen it in game number 2, but it could be the case now.
Well, last time we saw Terra and a Hunter, and we're going to see the same thing. Terra and
Hoi. Again, I just don't understand because I don't think moswal is going to be playing the Freya and then force CycloneSpin to play the Hoi.
Right.
So I don't think Hoi is a typical priority pick for either of these teams necessarily. The Artio, we haven't seen this in game number 1 or 2 because of the secondary ban phase, but I expect a lot of pressure now in the dueling Artio with Freya combined.
I love the way Artio really combats against excuse me. I love the way Artio combats against Terra. I think that really shuts down what Terra wants to do. She's got to really charge in order to execute basically everything. So with that taken off the table, it's a little bit rougher for Terra. moswal again will play the Puch, and there is your Serqet, no longer on the ban selection screen, now on the pick screen, and that is almost undoubtedly going to Andy.
Cyclone and Moss will have to worry about andinster Serqet to the point where they might have to think about picking up an Aegis at level 1, expecting those level 5 ganks.
Second round of bans all said and done. No Cerberus, no Sobek, no Odin, no Giannis either. So Splyce saw 2 characters last time that they didn't want to deal with, and the Odin, that was game 1. So I love the adaptation here for the picks and bans. Splyce sort of come through with, this is what we don't want to see in general. Now, as we reflect with the set that we've seen, this is how we adjust our P's and B's for this situation. Space Station Gaming going to go with the Kuzenbo.
It's surprising considering they were the ones to ban that away in the last game, not wanting to have Divios pilot that guy. But when you're dealing with such burst damage of a Freya, that reflect from Kuzenbo is going to go a long way.
Naja here, going to bring players a long way up to the sky. That's going to be in the hands of Cyno and Nike. Divios, Big D on the Nike, is a character that I really like when Divios does play her. She's got a great initiation and just the ability to never die.
That late game auras, you're going to be able to stack up those halos, get the movement speed, get the damage going. And speaking of damage, moswal did a lot of it in game number 1. It's going to be difficult to penetrate that backline out of Space Station.
50,000 damage and then some is what moswal was able to bring on the Vulcan. That's 3K more than the MVP of the game. Incredible stuff. Who's going to win? I mean, this is for all the marbles. Again, giving you some context if you're just joining us. Whoever wins this game number 3 is second place in North America, which means they go to Worlds without having to worry about the placement phase. Whoever does wind up falling here, Toli, they're going to have to go through the ringer. You're on the spot.
Oh, who am I predicting to win this game? andinster on the Serqet, going with Space Station.
Andy on the Serqet's quite scary, but I look at the Puch, I look at the Naja, I look at the Nike. There's a lot going on. Wow, this is incredible. Ladies, gents, and our non-binary friends, game number 3. This is for all the marbles. Bring it to us, commentators.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Toli. Moving into game 3, Splyce up against Space Station. What more, really, could you have asked for that number 2 spot to avoid having to go down the placement stages? And Splyce are on a ton of comfort picks here. This is a scary concept if you're Space Station.
I'm surprised that Space Station don't ban the Naja. And I think that might come back to haunt them. They go with the Cerberus Sobek bans in the second phase. Very concerned with what Divios is going to play in the solo lane. Because as soon as you see Artio, you know that's going to be for Aror.
Yes.
But the way that Splyce has been working their compositions around, I think you can get away with banning Cerberus to make sure they don't go for magical, because Cerberus is a big enabler for that style of composition.
Right. And
then ban the Naja. And maybe Cyclone goes to Erlong, and that's a big problem, but Erlong is usually a bit of it's an easier matchup for Serqet because you can use your anti-heal from Last Breath to stop the healing from 9 turns Blessing. that's not a bad matchup for you. It's just that Cyno is you don't give him Naja. Like that, everyone knows it. It makes me nervous here if you're a Space Station fan.
And Aror on this Artio, man. This has been another key part of what Splyce has been able to do so well here in the fall split, is that Aror, and you kind of talked about this earlier, plays this so much more like another solo laner than a support. He's diving the backline so often and kind of leaving moswal and Cyclone to their own devices. And Artio very much enables that. She's a threat in and of her own. So it's a lot of things that Splyce have to handle, or that Space has to handle, plus andinster went with the blink early on. It's so strong on Serqet, I get it, but it's so scary against Naja not having it.
I agree. Andinster in this game, he's played so well in games 1 and 2, and he's going to be potentially the entire linchpin of this game 3, one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think that Splyce could really punish this blink pickup. I think that he could really use it to his advantage and set moswal or Cyno or Cyclone or even Aror behind early, and that could be a big play for Space Station Gaming in general, but I don't know. I think that this Artio pickup for Aror is perfect. They haven't gone to it quite yet, but as I've said, it's been basically Cerberus and Artio only for Aror so far in this fall split. With the Terra Ho-Yi dual lane and how Space Station really committed to that, Artio's the perfect pick.
Have we seen Ama prioritized here in the picks and bans yet either in this set?
No.
A little bit surprising. She's so strong right now. It could be a good answer to some of this early aggression that Splyce likes to go for too.
Especially with the type of compositions they run, where it's Opwash, Freya, Naja. I mean, those are all characters that Amaterasu, if you're trading Dazzling Offensive for Windfire Wheels, that's a great trade for you. If you're trading Valkyrie's Discretion for it, that's a great trade. You can really do a lot up against those characters, Amaterasu. I agree. I think that definitely could have been an area to look for.
andinster blinks in, getting some value as he burns the beads out from moswal very early on, and he will almost certainly be a target as andinster has already sort of flagged himself as being the aggressor in this game. But instead of the jungler, I want to ask you about the mid laner. Venenu's back on this Vulcan, which definitely was good for them when they had the Odin, but is it going to be able to have that same impact? Vulcan is a strong mid laner in his own right, yes, but do they have that same setup to make it work here?
Yes, I think they do. Andinster can provide good enough setup. Aquarius can hold people into the walls. JeffHindla's got good AoE setup. The big thing is I'm looking for Ven to punish Cyno. That's why I think they're comfortable with this.
When he lands back down.
Exactly. Just time it. He sets one of your teammates up, but he sets himself up at the same time.
The cripple field is there immediately to try and lock down JeffHindla. Cyno follows up with an ultimate of his own. No more damage though as Aror ends up running away and they give away Cyno's life on the back end. andinster gets first blood and Aror very low. The ricochet is there from BaRRaCCuDDa. andinster gets the double kill off the last breath and Space Station want that number 2 spot.
Perfect timing. I just don't like that call from Splyce to all in the Terra this early on in the game. I know she's now level 5, but Cyclone just doesn't really have that damage quite yet.
I also don't think they all in her. I think that's part of the problem.
Well, maybe, but they use, what, Windfire Wheels. Aurora has to use a dash in order to get out of where he was, so he can't dash away later on whenever he gets hit by that last breath. Cyno is in at that spot no matter what once he uses the ultimate, because he uses it so close by that he doesn't bounce back at all.
That's true.
Feels like a pretty much an all-in for me for Splyce, and I just don't like the call.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Is that they were all in, so then they should stick around, at least make sure that the Terra goes down. But they don't. I mean,
I don't think they could have, because Cyclone's only level 4.
They die anyway, though, right?
Right, but at least Cyclone doesn't die. And
I guess yes.
No amount of extra auto attacks is killing JeffHindla from 30% HP.
They did not do enough to him.
He was just too healthy.
Well, let's go back and take a look at it and see the replay one more time, because it was initially the aggression from Splyce, and he takes him up into the air. Auror's there on the follow-up, but he has to get out to get away from Andy.
Jeff, there's no follow-up from there. I mean, the ring toss maybe would have set Cyclone up for that extra damage, but also keep in mind that Andy's been paying early attention to dual lane in games 1 and 2 of this set. So Cyno coming over, you can kind of expect that Andy will be right behind him, and I don't think that Splyce were really ready for that.
It definitely was a tough call, right, to make that work onto the Terra, and if they want the kill, then that is not going to get it done. Aror, I like the idea of the cripple field, but it might not have been enough. He's got the last breath ticking, but gets away from the wall. BaRRaCCuDDa commits the ultimate as well, so 2 go down, and the tanky Artio makes it out.
You really want to catch the Artio in bear stance if you're Serqet, because you can use your own last breath to immune the stun, but you need to be able to get at least some degree of Deathbane damage off in that spot. And the fact that Aror is in human form means that his first reaction being lay down the cripple field is perfect, because that way, with Deathbane, that's a kill. But without it, obviously Aror is going to be fine.
Able to make it out of there A-OK. So aside from that early double kill, Spacestation was able to pick up both those kills going over to andinster. Splyce are A-OK. They're still okay too in the golden experience chart, so it's not that big of a deal, but it certainly hurts to have allowed andinster on this Serqet to get off to such a nice start. And BaRRaCCuDDa was right there with him. You know, he's been playing this Hou-Yi, I think, all set long up to this point. It's clearly something they want as a part of this composition. But, I mean, have they gotten enough out of this Hou-Yi for you?
I mean, his ultimate, as I said towards the end of game 2,
yes,
I think wins them the game. I don't think
that's pretty valuable.
I don't think BaRRa's been a world beater on this pick, and it has been very early for them to prioritize it. I do think that we could have seen a little bit more out of BaRRa in this set as a whole, but BaRRa hasn't played horribly, hasn't lost them the game or anything like that. And like I said, his impact with that ultimate in game 2, I don't think a single other hunter in the game does what he did in that spot. So in that regard, it's worked.
That's true, and it's hard. The ultimate goal is to win the game.
Yes.
So, you know, if there's a win we can attribute to this Hou-Yi, then you feel pretty good about it. And they prioritized it quite heavily, so it's clearly somewhere that BaRRaCCuDDa is feeling comfortable so far on this Hou-Yi. But only time will truly tell. As CycloneSpin, the opposite side hunter, has also decided to stay with the same matchup. He's been on this Freya for most of the set, and for the most part, he's been shut down, I would say, throughout the set as well. Had some struggles early in set 2, all of game 1 on that Freya. This has not been a hunter set, really, now that I think about it.
No, both of them have struggled a bit, but that's okay. I mean, the mid laners have both made great impacts. The junglers have been really, really incredible. The solo laners, the supports. Sometimes it's a 5-on-5 game, and sometimes you are the one that is focused out and kind of designed to fail based on the enemy team's composition, and I think that's been the case for BaRRaCCuDDa and for Cyclone in both games.
Right. Sometimes, you know, on a squad like this, it's not your number that's called, and when andinster and Venenu are playing as well as they've played together this set so long, then it's okay maybe. You know, we don't need BaRRaCCuDDa to be, you know, season 2 BaRRaCCuDDa right now. That's okay. You know, and CycloneSpin, they have clearly been building to limit this Freya, so I agree, no big problem, but just something to note that they haven't been able to do quite as much as we might expect perhaps from some of these hunters. As Divios, riding the Nike, a Divios special if I've ever seen one.
I do like this Kuzenbo pick that Divios is going up against, though, for Aquarius, because moswal is dealing damage that he doesn't really have control over at some point. There are some mages that are like the super powerful kid X-Men that like have OP powers, but they don't know how to control it yet. You know what I mean? That's always the caveat, which is such a cop-out, by the way.
It is pretty weak, I agree. Aror might be in some trouble. He's trying to lock down andinster. Actually, they blow him up. CycloneSpin hits the first one off the Freya. Now it's JeffHindla in some trouble. A huge ultra from BaRRaCCuDDa, though, forces them away. But they're just going to turn their attention towards Venenu. 2 kills come out from Splyce, and without any hesitation, they head to the Oracles.
And that's why you don't pick Serqet and Artio, because andinster just can't use his kit. As soon as that cripple field comes out, he can't get away, and Cyclone does really good damage, but Aror did a lot himself.
Yes.
In between those two, you will not be able to stand there for the 4 or 5, whatever, how many second duration that Entangling Roots is. And look at this! Cyno was waiting for BaRRa on respawn!
That's got to feel bad. He's half HP already. The cripple field can't quite get into range, so BaRRa is able to reposition, but we cannot say the same for poor andinster. That's 2 quick deaths in a row for this Serqet. He only just got back.
That is truly the worst case scenario for andinster. To take a death and then take a death literally seconds later is so difficult to come back from. I mean, he's going to spend the next 40 seconds out of the minute off the map, whereas Cyno gets a kill, an assist, an enemy red buff, his own purple, and andinster just respawns as Cyno is going to clear out his backs. I mean, that is a lot of time spent off the map. And that lack of purification beads is really hurting andinster right there. But it's also that Serqet is vulnerable whenever you're latched on for last breath, and that's the last 3 engagements, actually, that andinster's focus has been onto Aror. When Aror's level 10, and now a higher level than andinster, but you can't use Deathbane to deal the penetration necessary to kill the support. Deathbane has Prot Tread on it, And you need that as Serqet. I don't think people really realize how important that is to the kit. And when you can't use it, it's not just your main damage ability, but you don't get that extra damage for you and your team.
It absolutely ends up hurting them. And what a big play that I feel like no one else makes. Can we go back and look at least the aggression that we saw from Aror down by that in between the tower? Aror's the only one that sets it up. And aside from Mouse, does any other team do this? No. Dive you here?
Because it's so annoying. It's
yeah.
so unbelievably obnoxious that that's the way they would choose to take this fight. And you're right. Spacestation BaRRaCCuDDa goes, what? He gets Naja ulted around the corner, and the first reaction is, huh? Why are they there?
Right.
It's like a ranked game that they're waiting for me. I'm getting literally stream sniped right now as I'm coming out of base. But that's just Splyce doing what Splyce does. They're willing to do those little extra weird things. And not only did they get the kill on Andy there, but they got BaRRa's beads as well.
And the red buff invade twice, and the sash catches andinster mid-dash. Cyno is an absolute nutcase. CycloneSpin takes him down, but that was Cyno all day long.
You don't give Cyno sure Naja.
Nah, dude.
So, teams need to
at least get beads against him.
Get a poster and put it in the room you play in, so that you can look at it every day and understand that when you play against Splyce, do not give him Naja.
And at the top of it, it should say, "Are you about to give him Naja?"
Like,
don't.
Right. We should put something in the Smite client. Is Cyno sure on the enemy team? You're banning Naja, right?
Right. Like the paperclip comes up from Microsoft Word. Gold Fury very low. Splyce confirm it. moswal, if he stacks those corpses, is nice, secure. Cyno finds a max range sash. The bandage is there too, but they can't follow up thanks to the Suns from BaRRaCCuDDa. And that is one thing he's done very well, is zone with that ultimate.
Yes, the zone control has been excellent from BaRRaCCuDDa, not just in this game, but this entire set. He really has a great understanding of when and where to use it. But I wonder if he couldn't use On Her in Shifting Sands in the same way to zone away opposition. That's always something that stood out to me about BaRRa's On Her, is that his pillar placement in team fights has always really impressed me. And then it still had that extra bit of, damage from Desert Fury and ability to control the team fights on a lower cooldown. If that's what they're really looking for, maybe On Her would have been the better pick. Maybe BaRRa feels that the Ho-Yi matchup is better against Freya, because we've seen Cyclone play the same thing. Oftentimes you'll see the enemy hunter play the same thing in response.
Divios has 3 members here. I don't know if he realizes how outnumbered he is, but he does not seem to care.
No.
He's playing Nike. Sentinel Zeus is very good, so he's always going to get out. But man, if you're Europe, I got to imagine you're rooting for Splyce, right? If you're a European team that's going to be in placements, you don't want to be in placement stages up against Splyce, I feel like.
Say, if you're in Europe, I think I don't know that you're rooting for Splyce. I think you want Space Station, because Space Station's had so little success against Europe lately.
Right.
As a team. But you're right. If you're going to placements, for sure you're rooting for Splyce in my mind, because not only have they looked really good, and like I said, Space Station's had so little success against Europe in the last, 2 years?
Yeah.
Basically.
Honestly.
If not 3.
They've hit energy a lot, which
They've hit energy a lot,
yes,
which is a bad drop, but yes. Splyce is also an unknown commodity. They haven't played against Europe at all this year. And when was the last time,
any of these players
has Cyno ever played against Europe?
Yeah.
I don't know that he has, so that is definitely something to watch out for. He played against them at DreamHack Valencia, I believe, was the last time. Against Energy, where they lost to Yemen's Morrigan. I think that's the only time.
Aror doing Aror things, just half-healthing andinster with a little bit of help from moswal. Putting out good poke.
And I'm only saying this because I know Aror will take this as a compliment, I don't think there's another player I hate playing against more than Aror.
He's very annoying.
And I know that he thinks that that's a positive for him. And it is for him.
And I want you all to understand, Aror's very like this in person. The way that he's kind of needling at you and he's always poking at you in the game, he's very much like that in person.
But in the most lovable way.
No, I love Aror, absolutely.
Where you feel bad for getting annoyed, but you're like, why are you doing this to me?
Yes.
Like, what did I do?
I thought we were friends.
What did I do to deserve this? And then he laughs and claps at you.
Yeah.
You're like, stop that.
He really
Please.
is the best. Yeah.
But Aror, that's why these Cerberus and these Artios and this mystical male build that of course he's going for again in this game, it's like, why are you doing this? But it works out so well, no one's figured out a way to beat it. I mean, E-United their game plan was ban away a lot of the characters that Cyclone plays. That didn't really work out. Maybe Aror is the next call, but are you really going to be banning Artio or first picking Artio against Splyce? Because then you can just go Cerberus, or you're going to try and take both. It's difficult, I think, to pick and ban against Splyce. And it really does. It's such a different mentality because a lot of these players have that you know, one god wonder tags. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Cyno. If Cyno doesn't get Naja or Erlong, then he can't do anything at all. Well, his Ratatosker is really good, and he can play that at that high level. And let's say you somehow manage to take Naja, Erlong, and Rat away from Cyno. Well, then you just gave Splyce everyone else's best god.
Right.
Most likely, and so Cyno could be playing Anubis and it wouldn't matter. The man plays Chernobog jungle and it doesn't matter. Because the rest of the team is so good at getting their priority picks, it really does put on display that you don't need to play 10 gods at a world championship level. If you play 3 at a world championship level and a 4th at a very, very high one, you can not only play, but you can dominate in the Pro League.
And especially when they're, like you said, the sort of off meta picks, right? Like CycloneSpin is one of the few who will routinely play Izanami and Xbalanque, so it limits the way you can hurt him. You can only ban. If someone's really good at something that everyone's playing right now, they can just pick it away from you, and it effectively gives you one more ban. Splyce can kind of shorten your ban options against them in a way by saying, well, I mean, are you going to play it and be better than me on it? Probably not. Splyce, man, they really are an enigma, and I think there are a lot of European teams who are worried if this team is the one they end up having to face.
I think a lot of European teams would go in and be like, oh, I mean, they're picking Izanami Artio duo lanes every game. We will just stomp them, of course. And then you go up against it and you go, oh, they're really good at this. Like, why did they put so much time into practicing this duo lane? And it's for this reason, because you think it's bad, and then you go up against it and you realize you've got no idea how to beat it. And I love that Splyce has really embraced this team identity. It works so well with their roster and the way they've set up this roster, but I do wonder if they are ready for a meta shift. If a land meta develops,
sure,
can Splyce adjust for that? I think there are a lot of questions in that regard, and I'll be honest, I can't wait to find out the answer.
Oh, Splyce are so sandwiched here. How are they going to make it out of this? Oh, that's how moswal drops the ultimate and forces Space Station Gaming to spread back out. Aqua has the watery grave, but Cyno's right there the second it's over to land the sash. Aquarius gets away, so JeffHindla and Venenu are left alone in the jungle, but Splyce are the ones with position control to head back to gold.
Andinster picked up beads at level 12, God bless, but also goes for the Magi's blessing,
right,
or the cloak rather, and that makes it so that his damage is now much more limited. Those back-to-back deaths, I think, really did affect it, the way he's going to have to build.
Space Station grabs the Gold Fury. A little bit too late from the ultimate from Venenu, but BaRRaCCuDDa might be in some trouble. He still has Dive Bomb. Venenu makes it back to the tower. Divios was hounding him. Space Station are on full retreat.
JeffHindla just clapped down gold. Just was able to do his job there as a support. That happened. Jeff is playing well right now, and a lot of times you'll see teams go, whatever, we'll just try and secure right through this, but that was really well timed by JeffHindla, and even if you drop the Gold Fury at that point, then you end up letting the Vulcan ultimate get closer. Maybe that ends up stealing it away. So well staggered, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. That's most of the time going to Splyce, but I believe that Jeff is the one who made it happen.
Absolutely great play from Space Station. That's not the first highlight play we've seen JeffHindla make on a Terra around the Gold Fury even. I mean, that's just something he brings, as I hate to say that.
Nice. Nice one, Finch.
Yeah,
where'd you get that one?
Oh, you know where. I hate it. But
I need to hear you say it, though.
Yeah, that's one of those ranked phrases you like to say that I hate.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What else?
Oh, there's a bunch of others, but I won't go down this rabbit hole.
That's another one, by the way.
Oh, yeah, what else?
Yeah. Get ready for that.
You say something that's objectively true, and you're like, well, tell me some other reasons. Yeah, what else?
Name 3 more. Name 3 more phrases that I use like that.
I refuse to go down this rabbit hole. But Space Station, that's a huge answer back. This game was starting to look like it was all Splyce for a while there throughout this early game, but Space Station closed the gap back a little bit more, and it can't be stressed enough how important this game is, man. I mean, the placement stages are going to be tougher than ever this year. You don't know who's going to make their way out, so you want to try and avoid them if you can, but Venenu getting hounded on the backside does still have Aegis available, but he's so low. Aror does this all the time. He's on his way out.
And he should be okay. It did cost him horrific, but not too bad. Andinster's lurking and has the blink. Good little death bane to stay safe with his Magi's cloak bubble. BaRRaCCuDDa is going to split push down this left-hand tower, but it's Fire Giant, not Pyro, that Splyce is going to go for.
Maybe JeffHindla can just clap it away again, apparently, since that's something he does. Fire Giant down at half HP. moswal going to commit the ultimate as well, just to make sure Splyce grabbed the Fire Giant, but Aqua finds moswal on the back end, but CycloneSpin takes down Andy. The sash lands on JeffHindla. He's up in the air. Cyno has one more target.
Man, so much damage onto that Terra. That anti-heal, that Brawler's beat stick, so good. It's a double for Cyclone. Aqua getting handled, but then we'll just turn and y'all mind if I crit Ven for nearly 500 damage? Quick kill onto Ven. Aquarius next on the list. Only BaRRaCCuDDa escapes the ire of Splyce as they get Fire Giant. And after losing an objective on Gold Fury, let's just go and 5v3 on Fire at 20 minutes. Sure, we'll take those odds. Great trust in moswal to secure that. That's on him every time. Now, look at all the gold that Spacestation is able to recruit from that split push on the left, but that's still not going to compare to how much gold in totality this Fire Giant will bring to Splyce. The confidence level of this team is really, really impressive. And keep in mind where Splyce started. I mean, they went, what, almost winless in spring? They went to game 3 over and over and over again, lost every game 3. How poetic it would be for them to go to game 3 of their chance to auto-bid to DreamHack Atlanta and end up winning it.
We talked about it before this game a little bit jokingly, right? That this team is able to do so well late because maybe they've just got some experience there, right? I mean, they've been up against the wall so often that I imagine it doesn't tilt them the way it might some other teams. And here's Splyce are after a grueling game 1 that goes like 58 minutes, a game 2 loss that gets ripped away from them essentially by that Hou Yi ultimate from BaRRaCCuDDa, and recovering in game 3 with some of their comfort picks. Cyno on the Naja, Aror on the Artio, moswal showing how comfortable he is on this Puch in the middle lane, and Divios loves this Nike as well. They're playing these picks so well here in game 3 with everything on the line and making the big time calls.
It's been really, really impressive. And I do think that growing experience through spring and summer.
I agree.
Where spring, they are the worst team in the SPL and NA. In summer, they barely miss out on coming to LAN. And now in summer, they are poised to punch their ticket to go to DreamHack right away. It's been an impressive journey for Splyce. Only one roster change along the way, picking up moswal. He has been such a big key to their success here in fall. I think that he's been a perfect addition for them and potentially the missing puzzle piece to what they needed.
Yeah, he's been working out really well for them. That's a tier 2 tower down. All the tier 2 towers, and of course, Splyce are stepping on the gas. Cyno has JeffHindla up in the air. Not much physical defense, so he takes a ton of damage. Aror finds Venenu. Earth and Fury does come out from the Terra, but it might be too little too late. Splyce have already forced Space Station back.
Again, they might have trouble on the Phoenix itself as Sunbreaker does come down from BaRRaCCuDDa, but Andy already has to jump back and away. And that'll force Splyce back momentarily, but they do have that Fire Giant regen on 3 members a little bit longer.
They can start now trying to burn this Phoenix. Only BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla to try and force them back. Andy can't find a way in. Divios is being such a nuisance. moswal just turns and burns him. Now the Phoenix very low. It will come tumbling down as well. 2 kills for Splyce.
Man, this game just got blown wide open, and it really is that waiting and killing andinster around the left side back heartbeats. I think that
yeah,
got in the heads of Space Station a little bit. Splyce got set off to a lead, that lead that andinster had after the early double. Andy gets the first 2 kills of this game and has gone 0-5 since then. And it's really been because he tried to focus out this Artio instead of going towards mid and killing the op wash. That is a much safer spot for andinster to be. He went back to dual lane twice, found nothing for it, gets killed the second time, respawns, dies again, and all that momentum was not just out the window, but down the drain.
A great play from Splyce, and one that I truly feel like only they could make. I said maybe Mouse are the kind of team that could also look like something like that on EU as well. Another scary team as we start heading into the back end of the season. But man, Splyce absolutely answered the call here in this game. It's certainly not over yet, but they look so strong. And Cyno, I love what he's done. He's got almost entirely damaged with the 3 pin items. Yes, the Mad Guy's Cloak to allow him to make it through, but that's been so instrumental. He's not just taking JeffHindla out of fights, he's nearly killing him with those ultimates.
He did like 700 damage to him with the last one, and that was before this Masamune was finished. I don't know that he had Jotun's Wrath at that point either. I mean, this is serious business now for Cyno, and as Jeff has been kind of conditioned to do in this set, he goes Onis into Heartward into Voidstone.
Yeah.
All magical defense. Now he realizes he needs some physical defense, but it'll be tough for him to finish it in time. You're basically looking for Aquarius to continue to make moswal's life very difficult. Moswal's been able to do very little damage so far this game because Aquarius has been all over him.
Right.
Even if he's not on top of him, he's standing in the empty the crypts, pop the thorns, pop the shell spikes, and Moswal's killing himself over that period of time. So I love this Kuzenbo counter pick, but I just don't know that BaRRaCC can deal relevant damage. Venenu is getting blinked on by Aror, and how the hell do you get away from a level 20 mystical male Artio as Vulcan at level 17? You don't, is the answer.
Especially if he drops down the cripple field. There really are no answers for you there to try and find a way to reposition. So unfortunately,
and even
Venenu,
if you backfire and then he just dashes after you.
yeah, he'll just chase you down. Yeah.
There's literally nothing you can do.
Well, Cyno has yet again made JeffHindla his target. Moswal will be waiting when he lands down with the Empty the Crypts. Aqua standing inside them to reflect the damage, and Venenu can't find anything with the ultimate. In fact, he's been hounded on the backside by Aror, who grabs his 4th kill of the game. Next in trouble is andinster. He has the Deathbane to reposition, so they'll settle for BaRRaCCuDDa. I think they'll be happy with that one. The right side Phoenix still standing. They don't even need it. Splyce forced them back to their fountain and have a chance to take the game.
Aqua just barely able to get into the fountain, but Splyce, considering going for it, they're looking to go to DreamHack.
And why wouldn't they? Splyce have every opportunity. Titan down at half HP. Divios dunks in to knock up 3. The banish is there as well. Splyce take down Space Station, take game 3, and they're going to DreamHack.
What a story from
crazy,
Splyce after the year that they've had to be the 2nd seed in North America. Incredible. Congratulations to them. Space Station, I'm sure, heartbroken after being the 2nd team all year long. In the split where it matters most, they fall just short.
And I'll tell you what, man, I know that it's got to be disappointing, but I think the Space Station team is still scary. In Game 2, the way that Venenu and andinster looked when they were on sync together, they looked like world beaters, man. I think they absolutely do. They may need a little bit more time. I think they said as much themselves. But once they have that, we've got a lot of scary North American teams between EU, Splyce, and SSG.
Completely agree, but Space Station does have to figure out some issues. I think that game, they just got the wind knocked out of them by that play by the back harpies. They never really recovered from it. I think that it really is going to take some time for teams to figure out Splyce. And Splyce should be taking this time between now and their guaranteed trip to Worlds to figure out what their backup plan is for in case they do end up getting figured out.
Well, who's your MVP from that game? There's a lot of choices. Cyno looked great. I think you could submit your ticket for Aror.
I think it's Aror.
He was a nightmare on that Artio to try and deal with.
I think it's Aror because it's his presence and not dying in those 2 ganks back to back.
Yeah.
His cripple field that gets the kills on andinster right away, and then he gets the damage afterwards on Andy on that kill by back harpies. I think this Artio for Aror was the MVP for me.
Well, Splyce grabbed the win. Maybe an upset in a lot of people's mind, at least in the fans, based on the votes. But we'll see what Splyce can do with that buy, and if Space Station can make it through placements. But let's get it back over to the desk. We're going to break down the set.
Thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot, Ryan. And thanks a lot, Splyce, for giving us a fantastic set. Space Station gets the shout-out, but they are the ones on the bottom.
That's right. It's going to be Splyce advancing now to HRX after this victory, but Spacestation Gaming are still confirmed at least number 3. They can't be lower than that.
Sure, and basically what happens is number 1 and 2 will just go right to DreamHack. We'll see them the 16th through the 18th. Everybody else has to battle it out in a placement stage beforehand. So that's where Space Station is going to find themselves. But a fantastic game number 3 here. Splyce are really bringing it out and showing the result of their hard work. The entirety of the season came down to this.
This Artio pick from Aror yet again, doing a lot of work considering that the draft from Space Station was what? Serqet, Vulcan, Terra. That cripple minefield really disrupts a lot of the potential follow-up there between the backfire, between the dash from Jeff, and even the Deathbane ambush out of andinster.
Aurora is actually going to be your MVP. Ryan called it. The Artio was such a big part of what this guy wanted to do here with the rest of his team. Artio, Aurora just really comes through. And I like what they said on the broadcast, too. I think it was game number 1, where Aurora is kind of solo laner 1.5. Him and Divios kind of share that same role, and that's really what you expect out of Aurora. Be aggressive, be in the front line, and just be a nuisance.
I mean, look at this. When you have to beat and Aegis, use your own Vulcan ultimate just to peel Aror off of you, you're not doing your job as a mid-mage. Venenu struggled this game, and I think Space Station went in autopilot mode during the draft. If you think about it, it was a Vulcan last pick into the Naja, where you can ring bounce off of it, and the backfire gets canceled by the cripple minefield. So I think, why not Thoth? Venenu loves the Thoth. We haven't seen it recently out of him. Surprises me.
Yeah, I think that's been the Space Station's kind of trouble for years, going back to literally when they're Cloud, not different organizations. When we look at this team at its core, I think the problem always has been kind of picks and bans and a rigidity that is not really conducive to a winning environment. So unfortunately for Space Station, the mighty have fallen, and Splyce will leapfrog over SSG and find themselves solidified in that number 2 spot, 7-2, and what a split it was. United 8-1. I think those guys had the best fall split by far.
Oh, absolutely. Even if United and Splyce finish at 8-2 apiece, United can't be catched up to with that plus or minus score. It's between CLG, Trifecta, and LG battling for that number 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching North America kind of do this one, and now locked down 1 and 2. So it's all about the positioning for the rest of the day and the rest of the week.